Okay, another World War III update related to Israel and Egypt tensions. So let me show you this. So earlier today, in a video earlier, I showed you this story that Israel threatens to strike militants if Egypt fails to secure Sinai, Sinai Peninsula, where the rocket attack originated supposedly. Egyptian officials say recent rocket attack on Eilat, a resort town, along with Egypt's denial that it was fired from the Sinai, have created tension that puts peace treaty at risk. Okay, that was the story we looked at a little earlier. Um, Now Egypt is making an interesting claim. More Egyptian troops head to Sinai. Egypt boosts deployment following a rocket attack and sends 150 special police officers to the area. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that's an important troop reinforcement in the area. But what's also more interesting, it seems to me, is right here. Senior Egyptian officials were quoted as saying that Israel is responsible for Egypt's security vacuum in the Sinai. So they're going to blame Israel for the fact that Egypt can't really control what's going on in Sinai, the Sinai Peninsula. And I'll explain this in a second. A fact that will require both sides to negotiate changes to the Camp David peace accord, which dates back to the late 70s, allowing more troops to enter the area. Now, this is important to understand. Part of the Camp David peace accord, part of that agreement, was that Israel would return to Egypt, the Sinai area, and there was a condition on that. One of the conditions on that was that the Egyptians could have a limited number of troops in Sinai, and that these troops couldn't be closer than 20 to 40 kilometers from the Israeli border. So let me just show you that really quickly up here. Okay, so the second agreement outlined a basis. This is from Wikipedia, the authoritative Wikipedia. The second agreement outlined a basis for the peace treaty. 6 months later, in particular deciding the future of the Sinai Peninsula, Israel agreed to withdraw its armed forces from the Sinai, evacuate its 4,500 civilian inhabitants, and restore it to Egypt in return for normal diplomatic relations with Egypt, guarantees of freedom of passage through the Suez Canal and other nearby waterways, and a restriction on the forces Egypt could place on the Sinai Peninsula, especially within 20 to 40 kilometers from Israel. Okay, so that's this part here. And what Egypt is requesting or suggesting is that they need to revise that so they can put more troops in the Sinai as a way to prevent these sorts of rocket attacks against Israel. I think that's interesting because if they renegotiate the agreement so that more Egyptian troops can be in the Sinai, that would mean that they can renegotiate. I mean, part of the reason they negotiated that the way it was originally was to prevent another attack from Egypt to Israel. This is the sort of thing that could position Egypt for a legal movement of troops, internationally legal movement of troops, into the Sinai in preparation for an attack. That's somewhat speculative, but still it's interesting. It's something to note. You don't know. This could even be the rocket attacks could have been deliberate just for the sake of forcing Israel's hand in renegotiating the peace treaty. Or there's so many other possibilities here. I'm not going to pretend that Israel's the good guy for sure. Okay, neither side here is behaving very virtuously at this point, and I think you could go further and say that both sides are responsible for a great deal of evil in the world and in the region. Okay, and I'm not, but either way, the point here is simply that the rocket attacks may have been a strategic move on the part of the Egyptians in order to gain a renegotiation of the treaty. And it's interesting because we know that the peace accord, the Camp David Accord in question here, is something that the parliament had just voted last week. Egyptian parliament just voted last week to reevaluate and reexamine. And here, the rocket attacks happen after that vote, and all of a sudden, it looks like they're going to call for that renegotiation. You see? That doesn't sound accidental. Maybe opportunistic. They may just be taking advantage of an opportunity to do what they've already wanted to do, or they may have actually set up that opportunity deliberately in order to get the disability. Either way, let me look at something really quickly here. Okay, yeah. There's something else that's interesting here to note. Egypt launches operation to gain control of Sinai. This is the 150 troops they're moving, police force troops. I don't know what they're called again. But I wanted to show you, there's a couple things about it that stand out as interesting in this story. The deployment of these 150 special force police officers, special forces police officers. The deployment would be aimed specifically at protecting the pipeline in Sinai that delivers natural gas to both Israel and Jordan. Saboteurs have attacked the pipeline 13 times since the uprising against Mubarak began last year. Okay. The police reinforcements were also meant to prevent ambushes on army forces traveling between the cities of El Arish and Rafah. I guess I'm pronouncing things correctly here. According to the Egyptian statement, police bomb squad personnel in Eilat, found the shell of a second grad rocket just west of the city on Saturday. The rocket had been fired together with a number of others on Thursday when several explosions were heard in the Red Sea resort. Okay, so now it's several, not just one, not just two. We had one live, one dead, but several, and so on. But then this sentence here is interesting. Following the attack, military intelligence major, Chief Major General Aviv Kochavi revealed, this paragraph here, revealed that the IDF, Israeli Defense Forces, had thwarted 10 different terrorist plots to attack Israel from Sinai in the past 2 months. So this is how active that area is becoming. It's probably just a matter of time before there's some serious success, quote-unquote success, on the part of these terrorists. You know, I don't know much about what to make of the terrorists. You know, who they're actually on, whose side are they really on? You know, whatever. It's irrelevant from our perspective. It's just a matter of whether or not that happens, and turns out to be the impetus of or at least the justification for a military response on the part of Israel. Okay, so the idea here is that there's a lot of activity going on in this area, and it had been very quiet. It was Israel's quietest border for more than for a few decades. So, okay, you know, this is the story. It's called Egypt Launches Operation to Gain Control of Sinai. You can look that one up too. All right, take care. Have a good day.